Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. Voy a cantar.
How y'all doing? Now, I'm gonna warn you ahead of time. This video will probably get a little bit too long and boring for a bunch of you. This is the first in a series of videos that I want to make talking about my many trips to Mexico. And I would like to be able to share these stories with my, hopefully one day maybe my grandchildren would care enough to want to watch, And I know that I have real good memories of all four of my grandparents, but I was just a little feller, like 9 years old, when my mother's mother passed and my dad's dad passed. Although, I did spend time with them quite a bit, and I do remember them. I sure wish that, I sure wish that I'd had something like this of my grandparents where I could, sit and listen to them and learn from them. My dad's dad was the primo moonshiner for about 4 counties here in Tennessee. I mean, people come from miles around to get his moonshine. But he had to do something. Hell, had 8 kids. Had to figure out a way to feed them somehow, I reckon. Anyway, this here, I guess, is episode 1, chapter 1, whatever. Just as a prelude, whatever it's called, intro, I will tell you that the first time I ever went to Mexico was when I was in the Air Force station at Denver, Colorado, and I went there and I drove down to El Paso, Texas with some fellow classmates that, Air Force. And we drove down to El Paso, Texas and walked across the border into what you would look at and say Juarez is Juarez, Mexico. Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico. Anyway, and back in 1976, my God, how many years are we talking now? Is that 41 years? Yeah, wow. 41 years ago. As soon as you cross the bridge into Mexico, the streets were just lined with souvenir shops. And that was the market. And you walked up and down the street there for a few blocks, and there was all kinds of made in Mexico stuff you could buy. And didn't feel at all unsafe. Of course, now we went in the daytime. But didn't think a bit of, didn't worry a bit in the world. Of course, they say that fools run where angels fear to tread, right? Or something like that. But we had a good time. Drank a few beers in the cantinas and bought a few souvenirs and stuff. But that was 1976. Now, things have changed a lot since then. And of course, Juarez is known for bad drugs and a lot of people murdered there. And most of the border towns are very dangerous. But let's fast forward to around 2005. Buddy of mine, Mexican. Of course, his parents are Mexican. He was actually born in Chicago. Same hospital I was born in, Cook County Hospital. Years ago. Anyway, we became friends here. I had hired 3 or 4 Mexicans to help me build onto my house here, a big concrete block garage, pour some concrete and all that. Anyway, got to know the manager of the restaurant really well, and he actually invited my wife and I to come to their home in Mexico for Christmas. And I just couldn't do that. Oh yeah, I love that homemade Baileys now. You have to check out my recipe. But anyway, my youngest son was leaving for Air Force basic training on the 26th or 27th, something like that. And we just couldn't, just up and run off and leave him here alone for Christmas. So we waited around, and then got this wild idea. Well, why don't we just leave the same day he does? Since we got to drive him to the airport, hell, let's just drive ourselves to the airport. So that's what we did. And we spent New Year's with my friends. Anyway, the only time I had ever been, at that time, the only time I'd ever been outside of the United States, other than that little trip to Juarez, was when I took my wife and my mother-in-law. We took British Airways and flew to London, England, so that she could, my mother-in-law's a Londoner, and my wife was actually born in Ipswich. My daddy-in-law's retired Air Force. But, and matter of fact, I think that's the last time my mother-in-law and my wife have been to England. Is from way back in 1982, 83, 84, something more like that. But anyway, that's the only other time I've been outside the United States. So this was quite an adventure for me. And I love other cultures. I love to learn about how people, eat and live and dress and just, their lives. I love learning about other cultures. And it really gets me, all the haters that watch my videos and leave such vile, nasty comments, because I'm just expressing my opinion and my experiences, and then people just say the most hateful things. And it's sad. It's just sad that that's what they've got in their heart, is nothing but hate for other people. Well, I want to tell you right here now, I love the Mexican people. And I realize that in some of these big cities in the United States, you've got a bunch of gangbangers and all that. But as far as time I spent in Mexico, I really enjoyed it. So anyway, my wife and I fly from Nashville to, I don't know, somewhere, and then we fly into Guanajuato. And my buddy meets us there, and I'm just loving it. This is, between Christmas and New Year's, it's cold here, and down there the sun is shining. You walk around in a t-shirt. I mean, we're down south, okay? We're south of the Tropic of Cancer. And he takes us to a restaurant there in Guadalajara to eat. And we, he just takes us all around, and we go back to his hometown, Arandas, Jalisco, Mexico. And if you look at somebody that speaks English, we look at it called Arandas. But it's Arandas, Jalisco. Jalisco is the state. So anyway, we spend some time in this little town of Arandas, and this little town, Jesus Maria, and we're learning all about this culture, and the single people, the girls and guys, will walk around this plaza. I think it's Saturday night, or it might be Sunday, I'm not sure, but they walk around this plaza with music playing. They have a band in like a gazebo in the central part of it. If you ever get a chance, Google Jesus Maria Jalisco, Jalisco. I think I'll put it right down here, Jesus Maria Jalisco. And I don't know if you can get down to Street View or not to see the plaza, but it's beautiful. And that's sort of how they do their courting. And boys and girls, the girls will walk around sometimes by themselves, sometimes hand in hand with a girlfriend, sometimes 3 and 4 across. And little old ladies sell little bags of confetti. And you give a quarter for a bag of confetti. And the boys, if they wanted to flirt with a girl, get to know her, they would sprinkle confetti on their hair. My wife thought this was the coolest thing she'd ever seen. And they sprinkle confetti, and you see some of these girls just covered in it. And of course, they were kind of pretty too. They were, you tell the ones the boys really liked. And if and then the boys would say, "Can I walk with you?" And the girls might say, "Sure," or "Maybe next time," or "Let me walk a little bit first," and that kind of thing. But it's just sweet as it could be, and a lot of fun to watch. And you'd see people of all ages standing around, either drinking tequila or beer or whatever. And remember, Jalisco, by the way, is the state where tequila is made from the agave plant, and that's the only place in Mexico where tequila is manufactured. If the same liquor is manufactured in another state, I don't remember which state it is, but it's called mezcal. Same liquor, but a different state, so they have to call it something different. So anyway, they would be, like I said, walking around and flirting and carrying on, and it's just a lot of fun to watch, and we really enjoyed that. But man, tequila flows freely in that town, and you go into an ice cream parlor and have ice cream in the front, tequila in the back. I mean, tequila is just a way of life for these folks. And if you went to someone's home, they'd say, "Bienvenidos, ¿Su quieres tequila? ¿Quieres tomar tequila?" They say, "Welcome. Would you like to drink some tequila?" And I mean, that was a greeting in Jesus Maria and Arandas as well. And got beautiful cathedrals and churches. And in Arandas, on this one plaza, a guy was set up making cocktail de camarón, shrimp cocktails. But if you ever get the opportunity to have a Mexican shrimp cocktail, man, these are something. You've got the shrimp in a glass with slices of avocado, and they mix tomato ketchup and onions, and I don't know what all goes into this, but it's so good. And they squeeze lime juice in it. Oh man, talk about good. Of course, down there in Mexico, all the food is fresh. If you see a chicken hanging up in the meat market, that chicken was walking this morning. If you see a side of beef hanging there, that cow was walking yesterday. I mean, that's how fresh this stuff is. And you didn't see a lot of refrigeration or frozen foods. They had refrigerators, but you didn't see much in the way of frozen foods. Everybody ate fresh food down there, and it's so good. A lot of people ask me, "Well, if you like Mexico so much, why don't you just live there?" Boy, I'd like to. But also, got to be near the grandchildren. Dadgummit. I could really enjoy staying down there for extended periods of time. But anyway, my buddy took us to this town, to the city of Guanajuato, in the state of Guanajuato. And we saw Museo de Momias, the Museum of the Mummies. People where they've been buried and stuff got uncovered. I think it's because of earthquake or flooding or something. Anyway, these bodies came up out of the ground. Either they dug them up or they washed up. I forget what it is. You have to look it up. Museum of the Mummies in Guanajuato, but Museo de Momias. They got 100 mummies, and basically what it is they're just They almost look like they're freeze dried. And when you went through this museum, they talked about how the Spanish conquistadors came over here, and when they first introduced Catholicism, the Catholic faith, and they showed the torture chambers and all this torture equipment, the racks and the boxes that had the spikes in it that close in on you, and really weird and really, you know, old stuff. And it was really interesting. And on that same mountaintop was Minas de Plata, silver mines. And there was one you could actually climb down. And they said that because of the heat at the bottom of this mine, because it was so hot, the miners would work naked. And I forget how long they said it took them to climb down to the bottom. And I want to say it was over an hour to get to the bottom of the mine, because they had to climb down these little weird makeshift ladders. They climb all the way to the bottom, they'd work all day, then they climb their way out. And I believe it was an hour. But they had blocked off part of the mine where you couldn't go real deep, and allowed us to climb down and then climb back up. And we could feel the heat in just like, I don't know, maybe 100 feet if it was that deep. So it was really intense. And beautiful views, by the way, from that mountain. But Guanajuato is considered one of the top 30 places, I think, in the world to visit. The city originally was nestled between two mountainsides. An earthquake came in and covered the city. And they tried to dig it out, said to hell with it, and just rebuilt right over the top of it. And it happened a second time. And it built over the top of that, and then they went under where underground rivers were, and diverted the rivers and made highways underneath the city. And you can Google it, Guanajuato, and learn about it. It's really interesting. And when we came into the city, there was these boys that's waving pamphlets and stuff and offering to be your guide. Because let me tell you what, you get underneath that city driving in these tunnels, you don't know where in the hell you at. And I'll never forget, my buddy got this little 11-year-old boy to be our guide. He sat up front between my buddy and his wife and gave us directions, and was giving us directions underneath the city. You know, a la derecha aquí, izquierda, derecha, derecho. And it was amazing that this kid, at 10 or 11 years old, knew all of these streets. And Guanajuato had a lot of ceramics. It's a very pretty town. And so we really enjoyed that. And one more thing I want to share with you is this is the first time I'd ever eaten authentic Mexican tacos, and I had this taco stand called Vampiros. You would pronounce it Vampiros, and they had a vampire, because these guys wouldn't open up until after dark, and they stayed open till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So they were the vampires, Vampiros tacos, because when people get out of the bars, they got to eat. And it was so funny, because my wife works for a very well-known company, and she has a very high position. But we're down there eating these Vampiro tacos, sitting on a 5-gallon bucket in the gutter of the street. Because these guys just got, I'm sure you've seen hot dog vendors, you know, like you see on TV, you'll see hot dog vendors in the big cities. Well, this is a little taco stand, very similar on wheels, you know. And they give you your plate and you'd eat right there sitting on a bucket. And and the way they served you is you had a plastic plate similar to this, maybe a little smaller, and they would slide a plastic bag over this, like a saran wrap bag, you know, and they slide a bag over it, and then they'd set your tacos on there, so you were eating off of this clean bag. Then when you were done, they took that bag, threw it in the garbage, and slide another one on it for the next customer. And because you was drinking out of soft drink bottles or beer bottles or whatever, there was no bottles to wash either. And you sure as hell ain't got no forks and knives to deal with. So it was really, really an eye-opening trip. My buddy's sister and her husband own a furniture factory. It was really interesting to see the artist in there doing hand carving on this ornate Mexican furniture. Well, I don't want to wear y'all out, but that was my first trip to Mexico. When we got ready to come back, my buddy took us to the airport, and I said, well, thank you so very, very much. And I was sitting there going, I don't want to go home, all the way to the airport, an hour and a half away. I don't want to go home. And my buddy says, we're going to stick around. I said, what do you mean? Well, your flight may not go. What? Well, you never know. Your flight may not go. They might have too many people. Sure enough, we get up there and they say, very sorry, sir. We they oversold this flight. You're welcome to stay in our motel. I said, I want your motel. They said, well, here, and they gave us each $200 worth of tickets. $200 each of us, a $200 voucher for future tickets. And they were going to put us up in a local motel and feed us. And I said, no, I don't want your motel. I'll go back to my buddy's place. So the next day we go back. And I say, hey, y'all didn't oversell it again, did you? And the guy says, are you volunteering to stay? I said, hell yeah. And they said, well, come on up. And I went up there and I said, but now listen. I said, it's a long way to drive back. You know, you got to help us out on gasoline and tolls, man. So they gave me $80 to give to my buddy for gasoline and tolls. And gave us another $200 each in tickets. So that was cool. So my buddy drives us back to Arandas, Jalisco, and bless her heart, his 10-year-old daughter comes out, sees us in the back of the car and says, ay, 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 mañana mismo historia. Ay, 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 tomorrow, mañana mismo, tomorrow, same story, or same story tomorrow. But anyway, we ended up the next day, I had to go. They said, sorry buddy, you got to go this time. My wife was all freaking out because, you know, she's supposed to be back from work, and, you know, she had called her boss and told him, and it was all good. But I really enjoyed my first real trip to Mexico. It was really an eye-opener, and the culture and the food is just, you just cannot imagine it, okay? You just really can't. And I really enjoyed that. Well, folks, thanks for sitting through this. This has been Chapter 1, Episode 1, whatever, my trips to Mexico. The next episode will be about me flying down there to go to the American consulate to try to help a young lady come to the United States to work for me. And that would be my first time in Mexico by myself. Well, y'all have a wonderful day and a better tomorrow. Adios, mis amigos.
Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República.